Hello! It's Graham? And Lucy? Ah, thanks for waving. I know you can hear me then. That or you're just imitating what you see. I'm not sure. I should have thought that through. Okay. Variables. That's the issue. Hi, I see some folks are joining, connecting to the audio. Here we are.
Oh, there we go.
Week 9. Week 9 of our stay-at-home choir album project. Now, don't get too nervous as we go. You probably all know this, but week 9 of content, and of course we always give a little bit of extra time before the deadline, which will be the end of August 31st. So if you haven't started recording yet, you've got plenty of time, although now is probably when you want to start really finessing your plan so you don't corner yourself. And yeah, so here we are, and we've got one more week next week. This week, my plan, as I let people in from the waiting room, is this is the penultimate week of material, and so I was thinking to do a little bit of crowdsourcing. I have plenty that I could continue working on with the music, but in the past 8 weeks, I've gotten to hit a lot of my wish list, which is really quite a luxury, actually, compared to some shorter projects. And so I was thinking of how many of us are involved in different choirs. And we try to make this interactive, the stay-at-home choir. But tonight, just to warn you now, I am hoping in between singing each piece and me offering some insights as well, of course, to just check in and have people drop some things in the chat, because some of you have worked with some pretty amazing conductors with some pretty different perspectives, and I love gathering those perspectives and having them influence the way I think about a piece. So I have a little slot under each piece where I'm going to invite you to give comments, personal experiences with the piece, or insights that you've had that you've wanted to share with other people in the group along the way, and we'll be able to share those. I see some people are saying hello over in the chat. Week 9, probably you all know the way this thing works, but hello, Gabby Kitty. Yes, indeed. Good to see Sandra's cat. Oh, has gone away, has come back. Hi, Gabby. Yes, it's the cat duty. Luckily, it's 9 p.m., so my son is asleep, and I can't... One of these rehearsals, I suppose, if he's awake, I'll have to bring him down and introduce him, but that might be a while. Yes, and hello from Philadelphia area. That's where I'm based. Yeah, got some smoke out west. My in-laws live in Kalispell, and they've had to put in their window filters. So, anyone out west dealing with any smoke from wildfires? Out east, we saw a bit of it in the high stratosphere. Yeah, I'm feeling for you. I hope you're able to take care of the air quality well enough. Singers, of course, we care about that as much as anyone, because we're thinking about our breathing and the way that we take air into our bodies and then use it to sing. Yeah, so I'm feeling for you. That's concerning. I hope it dies down soon. Okay, I'm going to start. People, I seem to have hit most of the waiting room. I may lean over to get a few more, but it is 3 past the hour, and I want to start with a little bit of stretching and a bit of a warm-up. I have a couple of different warm-ups for you right now, and as I mentioned, I'm not going to do as wide stretch of a warm-up later in the series because we want to get through the material, and there are so many songs in these everything where we do all 5. So without further ado, I'm going to get up and do a little bit of stretching. And you may stretch however works best for you. However, I'm going to guide a little bit, and you're welcome to join in on that. And my guidance tonight is to think about stressors. Yeah. When I sing on stage, I get nervous. Now, I'm very, very good at dealing with that because I've been dealing with it for so many years, and I've had great teachers. I'm stretching while I talk. I've had great teachers who have trained me to deal with it in different ways, and also just the number of hours I've logged figuring out, if I'm a little shaky or my hands are a little sweaty backstage, how's that going to affect my performance? How can I prepare for that and be ready for it? And how can I minimize it? I don't want to talk about that too much, but I'm curious if anyone wants to reach over and type in between stretching. Feel free to drop it in the chat. That might be the easiest way. I am curious if any of you feel like you feel more or less nervous when you perform in person, which is different than stay-at-home choir, I know. But yeah, go ahead and, hello, Patricia from Southampton. Welcome, England. Yes, 2 a.m. indeed, which is why I'm here. Tori and Jamie, we hope, are asleep. Yes, more nervous in person. Yeah, I think most people would be more nervous in person, but I don't know. Some people say they don't get nervous when they perform. I'm not sure I believe them. Shake out a little bit, not just stretching maybe, but if this isn't something that bothers you, just do a little shake with one appendage and then with the other. More nervous in person. And someone has been willing to share that they're more nervous recording. That's interesting. Yeah. For me personally, I am less nervous when I'm recording myself. In studio, I'm very nervous because all I can think about is that recording engineer looking at the watch and trying to get through all the material. But when I'm recording myself, I start out really relaxed because I can do as many takes as I want. And you know what happens to me personally? Maybe some of you will relate to this. I don't know. You don't have to. What happens to me personally is I start running out of time and patience. When I'm doing take number 5, take number 6, and I'm starting to think, am I ever going to get a take where I get everything right? I put this pressure on myself, and I start to get nervous partway through the recording process. I don't know if any of you feel that way. Good evening, Michael. We're talking about nerves while we stretch. I see someone saying more nervous recording video but okay with sound. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, as a musician, I don't like to think about how my face looks when I sing. Yeah. Virtual choir, more latitude to be imperfect and enjoy it. Well, that is true with a large choir like this one. It's so wonderful. And this is, of course, an audio project. Well, just think about what kind of warm-up or stretching you would do differently if you were preparing to perform, or let's say in this case what we're actually doing, to record yourself, compared to if you're just getting ready for a rehearsal like now. Would you do any warm-ups differently? I'm particularly thinking mental process, because that's a big part of the game. You know what's in the news right now? There's someone very famous, and maybe you haven't caught this, but there's someone very, very famous who's been pulling out of the Olympics, one of the gymnasts from the United States. And it seems to be a mental health related thing with performance pressure. And as a musician, I feel like I can relate to aspects of that. It's something that we have to work on. I eat a banana. Barbara, I love that. I used to do that before my soccer games back when I played soccer in high school. Or football. We've got someone from England here. I have to be careful about my language. Quavers and crotchets, right? Thank you for what you're sharing. I'm seeing a lot of excellent things in here. Just some sense of the community of dealing with this. Because remember, of course, you record yourself alone with the wonderful sounds in your ears, but it's nice to know what other people are thinking. Yeah, thank you. Square breathing. Julie, I think I'm going to need to ask you to tell me a little bit more about square breathing in a moment. Would you be willing to unmute and tell me what you mean by that?
Sure. So I'm a therapist too. So square breathing is doing essentially what you are teaching us about some of the breathing, the counting of 4. So if you think of a square, so you do, one, you breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, 3, 4, breathe in. So you think of a square. Okay. So you're concentrating on that movement. You can also use your hand because you can, go up your thumb, go down, go up, go down, because it's doing the physical and then concentrating the brain. So then it takes you away and it gives you a sense of control, which is what nervousness is, that lack of control, that out of control thinking.
Right. Hey, that makes a lot of sense. I've got a new term for it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Crowdsourcing already. For anyone just joining us, I'm hoping to do a little bit more back and forth tonight, because here we are in week 9, and so many of us have worked in so many different instances in choir. Some of us are new, some of us have sung under many conductors, and I just, take advantage of that. Well, actually, I wanted to do some breathing stuff. So now that we've done a little stretching, a little shaking out, let's, I want to breathe this time. I prefer breathing through the mouth as a singer, and so I practice that a lot. But you've been doing that with me in our breath exercises. Let's breathe in through our nose. And I would like to breathe in through a count of 8, and then just sigh it out. We're not going to hold our breath or breathe out in any particular speed yet. So in through your nose, count of 8. Ready? Empty yourself out. And 1, 2, 3, about halfway full. 5, 6, 7, 8. Whoosh it out. Let's up at the 12. You're empty. Ready? And starting in now. 1, 2, 3. A little slower. 5. This is halfway. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Go ahead and let it out. Breathe normally for a moment. And we're going to do 16. That's a much slower breath than 8. It should be about half the speed. Just very relaxed, very controlled, slow breath. Ready, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, halfway. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and out through the mouth. Okay, next breathing exercise. I would like to go to just the mouth. Forget about the nose. You can have your nose open as well, but let's make sure our mouths are open for the breathing in for this one. And the exercise is to breathe in. No, it's out. Sorry. So it's one beat in, and then it's out for 15 through a straw. And a straw is like a very tight ooh, where you're almost like you're blowing out a candle, but it's just slow and long term. So not quite a candle, not a puff. Yeah, so empty yourself and breathe in 1, and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Still out. 12, 13, 14, 15, and in, out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and in. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Breath. I'm going to stop for just a second and just mention again this idea of using the breathing to kind of get our brain in a calm spot, the way Julie was saying. So the point of this is to loop it. It's to actually have that single breath, because that's what we do when we sing. We're not breathing in and out an equal amount. When we sing, we're usually singing for these long sustained counts, and then when it comes time for a breath, we often have one count to do it in. And then we're singing again for a long time. So imagine that you're singing right now, but instead you're just gently blowing on a curtain or something. And just cycle a few of these. It's about going into the in-breath and then back out into the fake singing. Ready? And in. Hold 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Go ahead and whoosh the rest out. If you want to do a few more repetitions on that yourself when you're getting ready to record, whatever warm-ups that you pick from these 10 weeks or from other choirs or projects you've been involved in, I recommend you come up with a little sequence for yourself. Even if it's the first time you've ever done that for yourself, rather than having a choir director do it. When you're getting ready to record, pretend you have one of us in the room with you, me or Tori or Jamie or anybody you like, who's going to lead you through the warm-ups, but I'm afraid it's up to you to pick your favorite little sequence, because we've tried to offer you a whole variety of them, and you really can't or shouldn't do them all from the 10 weeks before recording. That would be crazy. So yeah, think about whether you do something like that. A breathing exercise, you should have one of those on your list if you could. Okay, a little bit of lip trills. I'm going to sit down at the piano just to keep my place, and we're going to go, which tickles eventually, and if you find it a little too annoying, just take a break whenever you need to. But humor me if you will. Put up a spit guard if you need to. And we're going to 5, 6, 5, 4, 5, 4, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. On the way down. I should probably do it in solfege now, but I think I'd tangle myself. 2, ready, and of course, I find myself repeating myself in front of choirs, but I think I haven't said this one on this project. I love a good lip trill, because one of the things it does is it gives you an additional thing. Not just your vocal cords are vibrating, because I'm vocalizing. You heard I'm going, ooh, and we're doing the notes, but we also are vibrating our lips, because there's an extra thing to vibrate. There's an extra bit of back pressure against your lungs, and you've got a little bit more to be responsible for, so it forces us to be a little more continuous with our breath support than we have to be when we're singing. So that's why I find this useful. 2, ready. given concept, so I shorten these all a little bit. But even 1, maybe 2 minutes of lip trill exercise, which frankly, my lips are tingling a bit now, and that's a bit long. But that's enough to remind your body of the extra sort of support you want when you breathe when you're singing. It's about reminding yourself, not just about stretching yourself out. Yeah. Okay. I'm seeing some lovely comments as well. I'm going to keep moving, though. Yeah, so here's a little brain exercise for us, and it's related to the Amabile Alleluia. I think I did it in week 1 or 2, and I'm just going to very quickly do it now. So it's a count thing, and rather than talk too much about it, because you can go back and find that in an earlier video, and many of you were there, I just want to do it and have you repeat after me. So I'm going to say 1 and a 2 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and a 2 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and go ahead. I'm going to keep repeating that. There are 2 things that I'm doing, 1 and a 2 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and I'm going to keep repeating that, but you can see the gestures that I'm making. Those are conductor's gestures for these time signatures. Feel free to join me in doing the gesture if you like. So here I go, and join in whenever you're ready. 1 and a 2 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and a 2 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and a 2 and a 1 and 2 and 3. I'm going to do it again faster. Ready? 1 and a 2 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and a 2 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and a 2 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and a 2 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and. That's great. Thank you. I'm enjoying seeing the gestures from you as well. Thanks for humoring me on that. So there are 2 other things that happen in the Amabile Alleluia, in addition to the rocking between 6/8 and 3/4, which is what we just did. And that is the large beat, where you're in 1. And you can see Tori's actually da 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 ba da 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 1 and 1 2 3 1 and 2 and 3 and she's actually conducting in 1 through most of the piece. And so we want to think that way, but there's a hemiola at the end. Alleluia. And that's where you do a sort of duple meter over the large bar. So I'm going to go 1 and a 1 and a 1 and 2 and tap 1 and a 1 and a 1 and 3 and 2 and. Why did I do that? 1 2 3 1 2 3. If you were saying all 3 beats of the bar, the hemiola would be stressing 1 2 3 1 2 3. That's why I do it that way. If that doesn't quite make sense to you, you've got an earlier video to check out if you're curious. But let's do it a few times. So 1 and a 1 and a 1 and a 1 and a 1 and 3 and 2 and 1. 1 and a 1 and a 1 and a 1 and a 1 and 3 and 2 and 1. And there's a little hemiola for you. Again, if that wasn't long enough, you can always come back to the video and check it out. One more vocal exercise just to really get ourselves moving. This one's to bring our sound up into the resonators. Not overly nasal, but go ahead in the exercise and lean that way. Nimmy, nimmy, nee. It's the N hum that brings our sound high and bright. So it's going to go like this. Nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, na, 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 na. That was a lot. Do it again. Nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, na, 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 na. Ah, suddenly we're dropping the vowel. But I want the nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, nee part that we just practiced, nimmy, nimmy, to influence the na, 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 to be in the same channel and stay high and bright, rather than nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, no, 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 no. So, yeah, use the nimmy, nimmy, nee to influence the na. How many times in your life has someone said that to you? Here we go. Nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, na, 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 na. Nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, na, 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 na. Nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, na, 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 na. Nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, na, 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 na. If that's feeling a little bit fast for you, the nimmy, nimmy, nee being a little too agile for your tongue, I would suggest that maybe you're trying to move your breath support too much, and just let this be lighter. I'm going to keep the same speed and do a few more. Nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, na, 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 na. Nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, na, 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 na. Nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, na, 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 na. Nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, na, na, na. A few more for range. Nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, na, na, na. Drop the octave if you need. Nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, na, 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 na. Nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, na, 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 na. 2 Nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, nee, nimmy, nimmy, na, 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 na. I see Aviva's mentioning 1, 2, T instead of 3. That's a great way to do it. In fact, when we're counting up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, sev instead of 7, because why do 2 syllables? But 1, 2, T is a lot easier to say. I like that, Aviva. Thanks for reminding me of it. Yeah. Okay, that's my warm-ups for the night. Please get your music. We're doing all 5 pieces, so just get them ready. First one's going to be Abendlied. So that's the one you want to bring up to the top of the pile. If you're someone who likes to organize your pile, I'm afraid I don't have time to do this slowly, but I will say the order right now. Abendlied, then I will do Arise, then I will do Miserere, then O Salutaris, then Amabile Alleluia to finish. Just on a nice upbeat. Last time I finished on Abendlied, which is great in the evening, but it's 2 a.m. for someone, so we'll end with something sprightly for the neighbors. Right. So there we go. But either way, don't worry about all of that unless you like to. Abendlied is where we're starting, and for each of these, I'd like to start with a quick sing. We won't sing through the whole of the longer pieces, just to save a little time and make sure we're actually working on the music still. But I know people want to get sing-throughs together. Even though you can do that yourself, it is certainly nice. Sharing my screen. We're ready to sing the Abendlied. And in fact, look at that. It's all queued up. Jamie's just finished his clap. Sorry I'm not letting you practice the clap. I trust you're doing that otherwise. Have a good sing. And note that when we finish this sing, I'm going to invite any questions about the piece or spots that you're concerned about. I'm also going to invite comments. If there's something that you'd love to share with everyone else, we can drop that in the comments. I'm going to leave the comments live, so please don't write anything to me while we're singing. We can do that as soon as we're done. Thank you. Have a good sing.
Bleib bei uns, denn es Abend der Dank.
That was really nice to sing straight through it. Thinking about my face, because I realize you can all see me, and realizing that there are points where I look like a fool. And probably if I were recording it, I would tone some of it down. But I sure am having fun with the music, and I hope you are too. So, chat's still open. Saving my time on that. And I'm inviting you to drop in two different types of things. One could be any questions for me. Spots you're struggling with in one way or another. You could do that as a private message if you like, and I'll work on it but leave you anonymous. Or you can send it to the group. I think we're a pretty friendly group. And then the other side of it is, one can lose control of the choir room. It's happened to me before. But do you have advice for each other and for me and experiences about this piece? It could be just a feeling you have about it, or something you enjoy, or something you find challenging but not a question. Or if you have some insights from other conductors, if you've done the piece before, feel free. So I've invited quite a bit, and you don't need to say anything. I have a plan, and there's plenty of music to get through. But I just wanted to open that up and see if there were any things that you wanted to share with the group. I was just particularly noticing, while I give people a moment to settle themselves there and get anything typed in, I was just particularly thinking about the deceptive cadence. I know that's geeky of me, but Jamie and I share the geeky aspect of the stay-at-home choir. It's in measure 42. And we get this great moment where you're doing a B-flat major. Oh, that's a little fake out. That's a harmonic fake out. It should have been, right? Yeah. So it's a harmonic motion that is just a wonderful moment to string the piece out into that coda, that extra ending that we get, which is lovely. I've got a couple of things coming in now, so I'm going to go for it. Thank you so much for sharing, everyone who is, and thank you so much for listening, those of you who are here for the company as well. Having trouble knowing exactly where the retards begin. I know. We kept talking about getting a conductor on this one, and I wish we'd made that happen. It's definitely tricky to figure that out, and there are a couple of spots. It's easy at the end for the final note because of that click, but earlier in the piece, there are a couple of spots. Particularly, I think the hardest one is measure 27, and I think the only way to deal with that. Go ahead, Dave, if you want, and let me know if there are other particular spots. But 27 is the example I'm about to use, and in bar 27. There's just that slowing down and the placing of the T on the 16th rest, which is a great word in English, the semiquaver rest, at the end of that measure. And it's hard to predict. All I can say for that, which I do think works, is to listen to it on repeat a little bit. And of course you're doing that to the whole piece. But what if we went in actually... and I just demonstrate this for you. What if we actually went in? I'm going to wait until I feel like I can see bar 27. There, I can see it. I'm a little bit before it. I'm going to play this and see where we are. So that was at what, 2 minutes and 56 seconds? I'm gonna just listen to that 3 times in a row. You know what? By the end, if I've listened to it 3 or 4 times trying to figure out what the invisible conductor is doing, at the last point, I'm going back actually to 252 now. You might want to choose a slightly different starting spot for yourself if you're working on it. By the end, I'm actually counting. And I think if I demonstrate that for you now, it might cause a little bit of chaos between the microphone and the shared sound. But I'm going to try anyway, and apologies in advance because I know it doesn't work terribly well. But listen to this. This is me in my head, or even counting aloud the last time I listened to it when I think I'm starting to understand. In the end, I'm trying to conduct the track to figure, not trying to sing my part. I'm freeing my brain from worrying about that and just worrying about how it's stretching. And when I physicalize that, when I actually try to do it, I find out how close I was and I learn more. So that's my piece of advice for you on that one, Dave. And hopefully that I'm going to stop share and see if you followed up with that. But let me come back to it and move on. Because I agree. It's tough to know where those begin, and just listening to those little moments on repeat. I know it's kind of an obvious piece of advice, and maybe you were already doing it, but I don't always think of that, to be honest. So it'd be fair if you didn't. Right, so slow that the throat tightens on the long notes. Yeah. Oh, that's a biggie. And this is true for any piece you're singing, especially when it goes slow. But when we try to shepherd our breath, we add tension to our throat, our jaw, our larynx, our tongue. And me just pointing that out, actually, I think is useful to you, because you will have heard that before, but what we're worried about is the length of the phrase, the breathing and the staticness of trying to hold that moment, whereas we need to keep it alive and moving and active. And so when I was in 11th grade and I realized I wanted to be a singer and not just a trumpet player, so I finally got voice lessons for the first time. I was so excited. And my voice teacher gave me something that I've taken the whole way through, even though I've had other voice teachers that have given me different types of insights since. He used to make me just walk around the room, swinging my arms while singing the piece once I had gotten to the memorized level. Maybe you're not memorizing this piece and that's okay, but you can hold your music. It means you've got a little bit of tension forced to hold your music and look at it. But, if I'm having trouble at the beginning of this piece, and I'm a bass, I might just sing, Bleib bei uns, denn es will Abend will. I'm just dancing around, and luckily you're alone. And we're not even doing video for this, so frankly, I'm not sure I recommend this, because you got too many creaks from the floor, you got to keep the microphone the same distance, but no one can see you. So a little bit of motion even where you're standing is something we can get away with on this project in a different way than some of the video ones. But that's my quick thought for that, is trying to remember that we have to keep the body active. And it's the trying to get through the phrase that creates the stillness, which turns into tension in places that don't have anything to do with that. We're worried about the breath and we tense up in the throat. So that's my thought for you, Barbara. I hope that's helpful. I'm seeing where are possible places for breaths on the very last phrase, especially for soprano 2. Looking at the very last phrase where we go from fortissimo down to pianissimo. That great decrescendo. Possible places for breaths in the stay-at-home choir, except for the Monteverdi project, which is concurrently going right now, where he wants us all to breathe in particular places. Possible places for breaths are anywhere that it's not marked through. So anywhere except the end of the anti-penultimate measure. I have been waiting to use the word anti-penultimate for weeks, guys. Thanks so much. That's measure 43. Oh, I tapped it. It's an iPad. 43, 4, 5, 6, 7. End of measure 47 is where you're not allowed to breathe. Anywhere else. And the rule of stagger breathing, of course, try to breathe in a less predictable place because fewer people are likely to breathe there. So I'm a soprano 2. I'm trying to find an unpredictable place. I didn't breathe where the carry through was. I breathed just before it, right? And maybe a lot of people go for that. You could leave out a syllable, a word, whatever you like. Remember, we're a team. That's the important part. Okay, mentioning breathing in the last four bars, wee bit difficult for the second sop. That's multiple people on the same thing. I agree. And it's not just the second sopranos, although that is in a range where we lose a little more air, typically. Me especially. Third time singing Abendlied. Oh, the Timmins Symphony Orchestra Chamber Concert. I don't know where that is, but it sounds like a lovely experience, Randy. Thank you. Glad you've come back to the piece. I love coming back to this one. Difficult for sopranos going down from measure 15, Abend G at. Back to measure 15, 13, 14, 15, and that was a sopranos. Oh, yeah. I mean, technically, that's just a slow descent, and it's the same with the tension issue. I would recommend doing some breaths, and I'm a little sad that musically, Tori and Jamie and I have taken away your breath at the end of measure 14, because if I were working with a live choir, I might second-guess myself on that one, because I really want to make sure that you're tanked up. But I might actually breathe halfway through bar 14. I should not go for that high G, so let me take it down as a tenor. Yeah, and I don't know if I'm going to try to get through all four of those notes either, but to go from the G to the F, I think I'm going to do that better if I take out the second half of the B flat at the beginning of measure 14. Play around with that and see if that helps. You don't need the breath yet, but sometimes that's the cleverer place to take it before you need it. Yeah. Yes, 27. I don't know what that means. Oh, yes, 27. Thank you, Randy. I agree. Tempo spots, we are slowing. Yeah, especially when you're moving very slowly. Okay, just catching up. Sorry about the what measure, please, Molly. Hopefully we picked that up. I'm afraid it's gone. That's the trouble with me keeping up with the chat. Eighths are counted as quarters, so like 5 beats in the bar. Yes. As you stretch, when I'm a conductor and I'm slowing down, I'm thinking in my head, 1, 2, and 3, and a 4E, and every beat that's slower, I'm subdividing it more ways because that helps my brain keep control of it. So yes, that's the great way to think it. Palate tightens up, not the throat. Rama, that's I've definitely heard that from some singers. I don't know if I've personally experienced it, but you are not alone. And knowing that about yourself is so powerful. That's the whole game of singing, is figuring out all the things that we take for granted and actually becoming aware of them. Memorized, lovely. Breathing. I do need to move on. Swaying, great. People are supporting all of this. And Wendy, I like your comment there, which is this idea of thinking inhalere la voce. So as if while you're singing, you're breathing in, and while you're breathing, that you're singing. This idea of linking the two ideas rather than having them be these diametrically opposed things. I think we've occasionally done a warm-up that focuses on that, but it's a cool concept, and for some people, myself included, it really works. It really helps release tension. Yeah, gonna move on. So I said Arise was next. Go ahead and find Arise. I should have had a little more caffeine to keep us moving, but I will do my best. Arise is next, and we're going to sing parts of this one just to not lose too much time, because I want to give fair shrift to make sure we hit them all. We'll start at the very beginning. If you're still digging for it, I apologize, but I'm going to start with the piano play in now, which gives you a few more seconds. Where is it? I also gave you a few more seconds. Here it is. Off we go.
Arise, beloved, fair one, come away.
Arise, beloved, fair one, come away.
For lo, the winter is past, beloved, come away. Arise, 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 arise.
Arise, beloved, fair one, come away.
Arise, beloved, fair one, come away. For lo, the winter is past, beloved, come away. Arise, 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 arise. Come, there's rain, has been, the birds are singing. Come, your hand in mine, we'll taste of the grapevines and hear the turtle doves. Their voices sing of joy and love. Hush, do not awaken love, do not arouse till it pleases.
As the gazelles and doors of the fields,
So is my beloved.
arise. And I've been sitting. What am I doing? Yeah, so I've got the same thing for you here. Sorry you're having trouble with your computer, Michael. I'll keep letting you in from the waiting room. And that goes for anyone who gets logged off for whatever reason. Yeah, and I haven't spent quite as much time with this one, so I'm hoping to focus on it a little bit more next week. If that's something that really appeals to you, go ahead and file that away. But also, my thought, while I'm inviting you to share any comments or questions, I won't have time to dig into quite as deeply on the rest of them tonight if I'm going to keep time. But my thought while you're doing that is just being struck by the overarching form of it. This piece is about crescendos and lifts. And of course that means we have to start soft and get louder, and then we have to go soft again to get louder, and that soft part in the middle, hush, do not awaken love. But look with me, unless you're typing something right now, feel free to keep going. But look with me at the beginning of the piece, page 3. Measure 25, we have a crescendo on love, and it just crescendos into the open air. We don't taper that long note at all. We don't round it at the end. We just send it out into the universe. Vroom, off it goes. I like to think of that kind of thing as a ski jump moment. You're going down, you're building, and then you're launched at your fastest moment at the bottom there. There's no sort of slowing down and showing, okay, I'm about to be done singing. No. We launch right on through the atmosphere. Same thing at the bottom of page 7. If you look at the bottom of page 7, I think it's measure 51, we're crescendoing in and then just leaving it into space. And then the sopranos and altos breathe. And that happens throughout the piece, this idea of just crescendoing into measure 73. We just launch the little Tweety birds of the piano by that note that we're arise. Hand that over to the Tweety birds. Yeah, send it on up. I'm going to read the comments and see what we've got. Just joyous to sing. Love the adjacent notes, tingling with joy. Do we flip the R in arise? Arise, arise. I'm hearing a flip from the guide tracks. Anyone else hearing a flip? I think so. I would listen to that again to answer you surely, but I'm pretty sure we want to do what we hear, and listening to the singers, it's a pretty British approach to that. Arise, arise, arise. That's what I'm hearing. Anyone got any contrary information to that, don't hesitate, because it's been a lot of reviewing of Tori and Jamie's rehearsals as well, and I'm always afraid I'm going to contradict them, and it's been a while, so if they said that early on, I might have forgotten it. But I'm pretty sure I'm right. Yeah. Reading on, adjacent notes. Oh yeah, the crunchy parts. Yeah, it's so good harmonically. Joyous to sing. Yes! Rosefini's talk at the beginning, I think it was week 2. Again, if for some reason you have missed that and haven't caught up yet, dip back into that. Because it's so cool to talk to the composer. As an early music guy, I just don't get to do that. I get on my Ouija board, it doesn't work. So to be able to talk to Sarah Quartel and Rosefinia Powell, and on previous projects we've been able to talk to the arrangers and composers, it's so cool. Yeah, great. Okay, well thank you. I think we shall move on in that case. And I said next is, and don't be afraid, I'll be here next week. Next is Miserere. This is one I definitely won't. I couldn't stop the previous one. It was only 3 minutes and 40 seconds. But Miserere, we'll do a partial sing through. A lot of the music's the same, the words are different. So off we go. We'll start at the beginning, and then I'll just stop it right when you don't want me to. Sorry.
Secundum multitudinem miserationum tuarum, dele iniquitatem meam. Quoniam iniquitatem meam ego cognosco, et peccatum
Ut justificeris in sermonibus tuis et vincas, cum
And I know there's a little bit of different material at the end as well. Sorry! I'm just watching the clock and knowing myself. So, this one, again, inviting anything you want to drop in the chat, questions, comments, anything at all. And while you're doing that, my major comment for this one is just continuing to be struck by the variety of what we've got. We've got pieces written by people we can talk to, and we've got this piece from 400 years ago, which is just, and it evolved over time. And so I'm just struck by the variety of it, and how for this one I'm listening to the guide track singers and how horizontally they're singing it. It's not Miserere me. You can't hear them counting. It's Miserere me de. Right? And you can breathe wherever you want. This one's a great one for stagger breathing. But my advice or thought is that work on making it so that the counting is absolutely dead on, because these guide track singers are, but that you're not expressing that you're not, try to avoid too much bouncing and thinking really horizontal with your voice. Anyone who's singing the Monteverdi Project will have heard that from Robert Hollingworth as well. It's a great way to approach early music because it's got these beautiful, I think of counterpoint as a school of dolphins. You know, in homophony we all move together, but in counterpoint we all have the same shape as we swim, but we're all just taking turns swimming past each other and singing the same line in slightly different places. And so it's that horizontality that makes it really sparkle. All right, just checking in. In the chant parts, is it okay for altos to drop an octave lower? I certainly don't see why not. I don't remember the official answer, but I don't think that's going to cause any trouble for the balancing, because there's just so much chant going on. Yes, missed some rehearsals. Notice Tori looks off in the distance at the end of the chant. I think she's trying to convey a feeling there. I confess I haven't quizzed her about it. But I think something I think about with this is how these were written for big acoustics. These Renaissance sacred pieces were written, if you're going to be singing this probably in a smaller room. In fact, I can almost guarantee that all of us will be singing in a smaller room than the Sistine Chapel. So do what you can to remember the acoustic of the Sistine Chapel. And in this virtual choir, there will be a reverb put on it. And you have to believe that in the way that you sing. If you react to the dry room that you're in, that's a problem. So I think that's what Tori's doing. I'm confident that's what Tori's doing. That's what I would do. Around measure 35, chant into singing. Yes, looking at that now. 35. And you are presumably an alto, because that's the one that has to get the timing on that. So, yeah. Ut justificeris in sermonibus tuis et vincas cum iudica. So what I like to do there for my choirs is really start counting on the vincas. Frankly, I'm disagreeing with the thing I just said about try not to show your counting. That's the spot where I hear the choir want to show their counting. And I actually do hear the guide track singers doing a little bit of tuis et vincas cum. So counting 2 beats in veen so that your cas is another beat and your cum. That'll help with the timing of it, which I'm guessing is your question, because I've seen that as an issue for lots of folks. Iona or Iona, probably Iona. In the chant parts, is it okay? Oh, that's this. Already got that. Yeah, go ahead. Drop the octave. 34 has tuis, but they are singing tues. Somebody screwed up. It's tuis. It's tuis. Yes. I noticed that again this time and thought, well, sometimes it's too late. You get the ball rolling. Can we get speaking in rhythm on unison to help with pronunciation? Where, Cynthia? Would you pick an example spot, please, by the time I get to the bottom of the chat? The chant is the hardest part, who was schooled when Latin had gone out of favor. Yeah, it took me a while, too. I never learned Latin in school. But just singing a lot of this is what got me there. And yeah, I agree. It takes a while to get used to it. Another gorgeous piece. Need help with chants. Soprano. Generally, Allison? Soprano? Cynthia, are you giving me a spot to speak rhythm unison? Because I can't do the whole thing, just timing-wise. I could do it more of it next week. At chant part speaking in rhythm. So I could just do it with verse 2, et secundum, yeah? Oh, Allison, thank you. The voice part question, gotcha. Keeping track of the threads of conversation is something I'm still learning to do. I'm going to, Cynthia, I'm just going to do, I'm not sure if you mean verse 2 or, for instance, something like measure 33, which we were just talking about. So I'll come back to that at some point. Sorry. Feeling the need to move on, so I will come back to that, I promise. I'll stick around for a minute at the end. Oh, salutaris, or we run out of time. Please find your Elgar, and I will hop back. Yeah, all right, sharing my screen. Sorry, I just didn't fully understand how to focus that question. That's my bad, but I'm going to move on for the moment. Ready to sing the Nimrod? If you're not, this is one where we've been asking, and we haven't got a starting note on this one yet. So I think what I recommend doing if you're a soprano is listening to the beginning of it, hearing that E flat, or getting it from a piano or an app for yourself. And then you just got to hold on to that. It's only one little bit. I think we'll get away with it. But here's your note. And apologies from the editing team. We've been swamped. Here we go. So beauteous. So beauteous. Yeah. I actually don't have a lot of sort of specific trap spots for this one. There are, of course, difficult intervals, but that's a sectional thing. I think it's certainly fun to listen to the different instrumental versions and think about how that might influence the way I sing it. But if you listen to the guide tracks, it's good guidance. And I just continue to. The one thing I'm going to say is just a positive thing about it, which is Michael Higgins. You know, transferring an orchestral, an instrumental piece to voices often is a stretch for the voices, technically speaking. And I just think he solved so many of those issues that I see with these kinds of transpositions. I've sung older versions of this, and I don't mean to pick on the people who did them, but I think Michael's gone to another level. And so I'm really, really grateful for that, and looking forward to hoping that we can get it released in a way that I can use it with my church choir, because they would love to sing this piece, and I've been protecting them from it. But this, I think, is quite achievable. It's wonderfully singable. So go ahead and drop anything there in the chat that you like for the same. Love singing this. Yes, indeed, Barbara, I do too. It's so cool to get to sing it, you know? When I'm a singer, so of course I'm jealous of the great orchestral pieces that I never took my trumpet far enough to play the Shostakovich Fifth Symphony, which I adore. Wish I could sing it. He didn't write it for voices. This is a chance to do that, so it's fun. And yet again, with the variety, it may feel like just another classical piece, but it's an instrumental piece, and that's cool. Yeah. I'm seeing. Oh, sing on the vowels, drop in the consonants. Yeah. I don't know if that was me, Sally, but someone just mentioned the advice of sing on the vowels and drop in the consonants. And that's a great way to think about the horizontality of a piece, especially when you're dealing with some of these some of these more vertical rhythms, the opposite of the school of dolphins I was talking about in the Miserere. This piece can be very blocky. And really singing it, oh, ah, ooh, ah, ee, oh, ee, ah. Many of us hate that exercise because it's hard to get your brain to leave the consonants out and still make sense. But once we've turned it into a string of vowels, dropping the consonants in as icing on the cake can be a very nice way to get the horizontality of that continuity of vowels. Oh, ah, ooh, ah. Oh, salute. They become part of the line once you've learned how the vowels link together. Oh, Randy, you've played this in symphony orchestra. This Enigma Variations is something I have not gotten to play. Yes. Hard to stay on the notes and not jerk around with catching breaths. Yeah. Again, it's so counterintuitive, but in a large choir, I get the best sounds out of my Reading Choral Society when we've got 90 singers on the stage, and I convince them to take the breath that sounds awkward to you because you notice your breath. But the more you breathe, and take good breaths when you take them, and don't try to gasp or anything. Don't worry about dropping out. The better it's going to be. Stagger breathing's amazing when you really trust it. When you really trust it. Yeah. Certain intervals. Yes, yes, yes. Well, we're at the hour, and I need to make sure I hit that last piece. But there were a lot of questions about the chant, and I just wanted to mention one tip that I gave early on that I know many of you are using. Don't forget the YouTube function where you can slow things down. And I know it makes it weird and grainy, but if you're having trouble with the chant in the Allegri Miserere, it's not Allegri. Allegri didn't write that chant. That pre-existed it. It's the old part. Remember to go over, and I'll point out the spot again. In fact, let me share my screen for the final piece tonight. Amabile Alleluia will end with a sing of that. And hopefully there aren't any long questions because I've mismanaged slightly. It's just difficult to cram it in. So here, I didn't share. I'm talking to myself. I will talk to you in a moment. Share screen. Yes, there we are. So here we are on the Amabile Alleluia, but you see the little gear there. I pointed it out to many of you. If you don't know, that gear in YouTube, I click on it. It brings up a menu above. I float up to playback speed. I click on that, it brings up another menu, sometimes to the side, and I can slow it down to 75% speed, 50% speed. Once you go down to 25% speed, it becomes so grainy, it's almost not worth doing. But if you slow it down a little bit, or even halfway, and put up with the weirdness of it, that can just really help you to drill it in slow motion. And that's like using a metronome, which is something I talked about a couple of rehearsals ago, about slowing down a passage and then speeding it up gradually. So do it at half speed, do it at 3/4 speed. When you're comfortable there, try it back at the normal speed again and see where you go. We're going to do Amabile Alleluia at normal speed. Are you ready? If you're not, I apologize. Off we go.
1, 2, 3.
Alleluia.
me smile. But that piece, you got to dance. I don't know, maybe you don't like to dance, and it's okay if you don't feel moved to dance by that piece. But I'm talking about the variety of the pieces, and yes, we have two composers who are living, who we talked to. That's not even overlap. I feel like Arise and Amabile Alleluia are two such different pieces, and to me, this is the percussion piece. I confess, and maybe one or two of you noticed me in my video, for that one, I just beatboxed the whole thing. I was in an a cappella group and learned to do the drums with the mouth thing. And so, you know, I mean, it's so rhythmically driven. So feel free to sway a bit, especially since we're not on camera. Just remember your mic and remember the creaky floorboards. Speaking as someone in an old house, I have to worry about my creaky floorboards. Always do a take and then discover I was creaking. Over too fast, I agree. Leave him wanting more. That's the advice, isn't it? But I agree, Molly. Very joyful piece. Well, I'm not going to open this one up so much because I've gone to the end of our time. One more rehearsal next week. I know a lot of people are sending in recordings already. Maybe you're still here anyway. Maybe you're still working up to it. But I'm just going to do a big wrap up next week. You know, Graham's last pieces of advice and try to hit the things, especially I'm going to react to some of the questions here because they were driving towards some particular aspects of pieces, and I think we can build on that. So come on back if you like. If I don't see you next week, best of luck with the recording, and I wish you really well, and I'm so grateful to have been on this journey with you. But yeah, hope I see some of you next week as well. I will invite you to unmute, and we'll do our farewell for the week. Have a good evening.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Graham.
Thank you.
Fabulous. Very impressive. Many thanks.